Hello and welcome to this year's recording of the 2014 SolidWorks rollout. My name is Jesse and Sashi and I were your presenters this year. We had a great time with you guys and 2014 has proved to be my favorite release so far. So this recording will be a summary of what we presented for What's New in SolidWorks 2014. Don't forget you've got a What's New file located in your help menu. As always, contact us with any questions and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to SolidWorks 2014 What's New. For this video, we're going to talk a little bit about the user interface. For this release, SolidWorks emphasized on four main areas: focused design tools, which includes improvement of existing tools and introduction of new powerful time-saving features; integrated workflows, and this involves streamlining processes and information sharing to make the entire design process more well organized; increased performance, where SolidWorks has consistently pushed for this with every release. The goal is to always have a faster system response and reduce user interaction. And last but not least, enhanced visualization, giving your models a more realistic view with stunning graphics and also improving the overall user interface. So as you can see, the entire user interface has been revamped in SolidWorks 2014. The command manager, the feature manager, and even the task pane now all feature a clean and modern look. All this was done with one goal in mind: clarity. SolidWorks 2014 is also the first release to feature the ability to change the text size and the size of the icon. You can also change these options in the Customize tab. You can change both of them here simultaneously. When working on complex parts and mechanisms to create, for example, design variations, the same features are often modified over and over. To quickly modify your design and help you collaborate more effectively, SolidWorks 2014 has added a new history folder. By default, the last 10 edited features are listed, but like everything else in SolidWorks, this number can be changed as well. So to quickly demonstrate how this works, if I go ahead and say add a fillet to this edge, you can see that's the last feature that was included into the model, and it shows up in the history tab. Once you're done making new iterations and revisions using your history tab, you can then save your assembly or your model. Now previously you could save as and save as a copy and continue. However, in this release, SolidWorks has now included the ability to save as copy and open. This basically opens the new copied file, keeping your original file safe and sound and untouched. Within this copied file, you can also include all reference components and add a prefix and suffix for these reference components as well. One more feature that SolidWorks added in this release is to the Recent Document tab. By hitting the R key, you'd be able to access recent documents. Now this has been in the software for a while. However, now it features a drop-down menu where you can specify the type of mode, configuration, and even display states when opening your model. SolidWorks has also enhanced the user interface graphics, and one of the new things that was introduced this year was the order independent transparency. This basically gives your model a very nice and clean look when you have transparent models. So to quickly demonstrate, you can see that even when I rotate the model, the rendering is nice and clean. Transparency is a good way to see the inner workings of your model. But to dive more into your designs, many of you often use the section view tool. However, when you use the section view tool, you tend to cut half the model off, giving you an inside perspective of the model. However, in SolidWorks 2014, a new tool has been added called Selective Section, which quickly eliminates this problem. By navigating to the Section tool, you can now select components to include and exclude for your section view. Now this gives you a great perspective of what's going on the inside and the outside as well. Thank you, and I hope you've enjoyed this video on SolidWorks 2014 User Interface. When it comes to sketches in SolidWorks, we've always advocated for the free sketch method, where you throw in your sketches first, and then you would go ahead and make it robust by adding in constraints and dimensions. However, it is sometimes hard to gauge the actual dimensions due to the scale of the sketch. I'm sure many of you have seen where when you put in the first dimension, the sketch either scales up or the sketch shrinks. However, SolidWorks has introduced a quick solution to eliminate this with an enhancement that you don't even see happen. So now if you go ahead and put in the first dimension, SolidWorks will automatically scale the entire sketch to that first dimension. Once you've added that first dimension, everything else goes back to how it was before, and you can dimension everything to scale. When selecting multiple entities using the traditional box selection method, sometimes extra entities are selected and need to be deselected. The new lasso selection tool, found by simply right-clicking your mouse and selecting it, allows you to draw in a path to pick up specific sketch entities. This new method still preserves the SolidWorks left-to-right selection, where only those entities completely selected are chosen, or the left to right method, selecting any entity which has been crossed over. This makes it fast and easy to select the right entities at the right time. Now let's just say we are trying to sketch a belt drive system here, where belt length is the preferred method to this model. Previously, to do this, you could have used tools such as blocks or path sketches. However, in SolidWorks 2014, you can now directly include a dimension called path length dimension, whereby you can select sketch entities and SolidWorks will automatically create a path for you with a path length dimension. Now you can quickly change this path length dimension to quickly calculate your belt drive length.
Alright, well Sashi has shown us some pretty cool enhancements already. I am going to continue on with some sketch enhancements for 2014. And this first one that I've got to show you is a pretty neat one. One of the things that I love about SolidWorks is the ability to bring something into SolidWorks in the form of a picture and recreate that, be it a sketch that we've got from an artist or a picture that we've taken of something that we're trying to recreate or work around. We've always had the option in SolidWorks to bring that in and design around it. And this year we've gotten an enhancement to that capability. So let's take a look. If I create another sketch here on my front plane, we can insert this image. I'm going to use the sketch picture to do that, and we can see that the image that I have available to me is this image of a hairdryer. So we've got a sketched out image that an artist has created, and we need to generate this shape in SolidWorks. Now, by far the easiest way to do that is to bring that image in and start working around it to create that solid. But the most challenging part of getting an image into SolidWorks appropriately is always scaling. And if you're familiar with this process, immediately you can see what we have as an enhancement. And that is the Enable Scale tool. This Enable Scale tool shows up as this blue line here. And we can see, let me adjust my transparency so we pull the alpha channel out of this image, we can clearly see what we're doing. We have a reference here, and this reference is that this hairdryer is to be 6.5 inches long. And typically when we set this up, normally we would draw a sketch entity that would be 6.5 inches long. We would dimension it out and then start moving our image around to try to fit to that. Well, this year in 2014, we are now able to adjust this with the Enable Scale tool to map that length. So I'll drag and drop this onto one end, and with this other arrow I have the option to place this wherever this line ends. So I know that this line ends over here at 6.5 inches, and we can see that 6.5 inches is kind of on a diagonal. It's not straight across, but if you'll notice that this does actually lock to horizontal, so it does pick that up. So we can move this off to the proper angle, set this, and as soon as I drop this, it comes up with a modified dimension box. This is cool because as soon as I modify this dimension, it will automatically scale my image to make that length in the image, that length in SolidWorks. So I can set this to 6.5 inches. I'll say enter, and as soon as we do that, we see my image slide off the screen as it rescales to the appropriate size. Now once that's done, I can drag and drop this image wherever I need it to go. So I can place this down here, and I even have the ability to rotate the image from that as well. So I can place this where I need it. I can get my angle just right very quickly. I don't have to come in here and start pecking away at tenths of degrees to try to get that set in the right spot. I can drag and drop and have that done almost instantly. The next thing that we're going to talk about has to do with conics. Conics were new a couple years ago, so let's go back and review what conics actually are. If we take a look at this image, we can see that a conic is simply just a cone that has been intersected with a plane. And the advantage of this is it's very lightweight, and we can also get a variety of different geometry by just changing the angle of that plane. We can see that by changing the angle, we can get a circle, ellipse, parabola, hyperbola, a wide variety of shapes just by changing that angle. Now that angle is going to be our rho value. So let's go back and take a look at what we've added this year that will help us make use of the conic tool. The area that we're going to focus on is this area down here. We've got a rib that comes along the bottom of this part, and it's a little bit flat on the bottom, and we also want to change how these transitions occur. So let's take a look at this feature here, our strengthening rib. If I go back and edit this sketch, we can see what we're going to try to accomplish here. We want to adjust these two entities, so let's focus on those first. Let me go ahead and remove these. These are just circular transitions. We will replace these with our conics. Now again, our conics can be found up here on our sketch tab. If I choose my conic, what we have new for this year is auto tangency. And auto tangency will smooth things along very nicely for us when we're putting in these conics. Now one of the advantages of using a conic in the first place over something like a 2-point spline is that a conic can't invert. A 2-point spline will be able to find its way off and back in while maintaining tangency, when in reality that may not be what we want. A conic will always maintain that. Now with auto tangency turned on, all I have to do is select those two entities that I want to maintain tangency to, and then place my rho value. We'll estimate there. Moving over to the other side, let's see that again. From line to line and drop. From here, we can dimension these. We'll say 0.7. And on the other side, we'll say, let's go with 0.65. Okay, we can further dimension these in order to leave ourselves with a fully defined sketch. And we can see that we now have slightly tighter transitions. Let's rebuild. Once this is rebuilt, we can see the effect of our new conics. We can see this is tightened up here, and I like the way that looks a lot better. Let's address another section of this. Again, I mentioned that we want to round this off a little bit. No better way to do that than with a conic. Let's take a look at this profile. Again, I'm going to replace this flat end with the conic. So let me delete this, and we'll replace this with the conic. Now with auto tangency turned on, it doesn't get much easier than this. Select, select, and place. We can now choose to dimension this, and we'll dimension this to 0.2. From here, we can simply place this, and we've updated that profile to something that blends very nicely from one side to the other. Once this rebuilds, we'll see what we got on the bottom. And here we have it. This transition looks much nicer using conics, and with auto tangency, we can get those placed significantly quicker. The next thing that we're going to take a look at has to do with the spline tool. The spline tool is a really neat tool that gives us the ability to create flowing shapes in SolidWorks. But sometimes, admittedly, that spline tool can be very, very difficult to control. Let's take a look at a section up here. If we zoom into this section, we notice that this looks a bit rough. And if we go and take a look at how this was created, we notice that this spline doesn't look so good. If I select this spline and show curvature, we see that our curvature is really all over the place. We want to smooth this out so we get a good spline. Let's go ahead and turn these back off for clarity. Now the spline tool that I'm going to show you is a new tool for 2014, and this tool will help you get splines in place and control them with much greater consistency. The new spline tool that I'm talking about is called the Style Spline. And the Style Spline is found under the Spline tools. What's neat about the Style Spline is it allows you to draw the control polygon. Now the control polygon can also be used to add dimensions or relations to it. This is an advantage over the old system where we were only able to drag things around. Take a look. If I start from this corner, I can start drawing out this spline, and the spline interpolates from the control polygon. Now, if I use this control polygon, we can set relations and dimensions to this control polygon. The advantage of this is it allows us to get consistent splines and repeatable splines. We can make this horizontal. We can make these equal. And we can even place dimensions. Now I've created a very nice looking spline. If we take a look at my curvature for this spline, it is significantly smoother. Alright, so this is a much better curve. The problem is here is I've kind of drawn myself into a corner, if you will. I've created nice looking geometry, but my old geometry has everything downstream in my model linked to it still. SolidWorks 2014 has given us a solution for that as well. If we take a look at removing this entity, we have an option now to replace entity. We can find this on the right click. We can also find this from the Sketch Delete tool. Replace entity will allow us to A, delete the geometry, or B, keep the geometry but replace all of the links with our new piece of geometry. All right, and this will make our old geometry construction. I'm pretty confident that I don't need this rough geometry anymore, so I'm going to leave my option on delete and replace my old spline with my new spline. When I say OK, it removes my old spline, replaces it with my new spline, but better yet, when I rebuild, all of my downstream features are now linked to my new geometry. We can see that even though this has fillets, they have rebuilt.